Hello, y'all. This is Darrell Lee Berry Jr. Glad to be back here for an extra show a bit early because there was something that I wanted to discuss. Let me fix my boom one more time. There we go. The mistake and knocked it earlier. It was like at the perfect position. I have to get it back in the perfect position again. Yeah. So this is a bit blurry, isn't it? I know. Awesome. So um, I'll actually start with some science first. Oh, yeah, hold up. My Discord is already showing. We're on the side. I'll get that fixed later. But Lisa was asking about my science focus, my astronomy focus. So I like stars. I really like stars. I really like spectroscopy. Now the thing is, though, the reason why I like stars and spectroscopy is one because we have a star right there, the sun. So when I first started getting into research, I had to do it independently. Like I wasn't on a part of any scientific team. Like there's different ways to get into research. Sometimes you could apply and join a research team and work there. There was an offer for one, but for one, it was something I wasn't interested in. It was in gamma ray burst, which I mean, that sounds fun, but I don't want to just be listening to gamma ray burst. I know that didn't seem interesting to me. And plus, that was like I don't remember what semester it was, but I was at UT, which is a very good school, very strong school. I was like in the middle of my progression, so I had to focus on school a lot. On studies. So I didn't necessarily want to get a job in a lab because I knew I wanted to do really well. So that semester I didn't work or do anything else. I just focused on school. Matter of fact, I think that was the first semester I got honors. Actually, thinking about it. Uh, but suffice it to say, I was still getting my bearings. Actually, it took about 2 years for me to finally get my bearings where I feel comfortable. Where now I can do several things and still do good in school. But at the time, like my first semester, I didn't do anything else, and I got like a 3.2. Right. And now I can work like two part-time jobs on harder classes and get like a 3.6. So I definitely progressed. Let's fix this one more time. Oh, that's why. Oh my gosh. I have something on it that's fucking on the thing. There we go. I would explain it. I wonder why I couldn't get the thing work right. There we go. So that's one thing. So another thing is, so I didn't have like a group that had like a whole bunch of telescopes to study exactly what I wanted. And at the time, I guess I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I knew I wanted to get into research. But the sun is right there, so I was able to easily get a telescope. The telescope that you all saw me use to look at the sun, that telescope only cost $99. I can afford that, right? So I got a $99 telescope, started looking at the sun because the sun is right there. I can look at it. And I started learning more about stars and sunspots and what all these things are, and I'll talk about that a bit today. But I would say my interest in stars is mostly an interest of convenience and the fact that I can do it right away with very little money because the sun is literally right there. I was able to borrow a spectrograph from my modern physics professor lab, who's going to also be my quantum 2 professor. So he's a good man. I like him. So I was able to get a spectra of the sun. I had a camera. I could take pictures of the sun. So I started studying stars. Now, the thing about when you get into graduate school, it's rare. I've learned, like I'm a McNair scholar as well, that like helps you prepare for grad school. And we learned that is pretty rare, like from some of the people who came and talked to us, some of the PhDs that came and talked to us about graduate school. It's rare for you to get to graduate school and study exactly what you want. So usually what happens is when you go to graduate school, you in order to get your doctorate or even a thesis master's, you have to have a supervisor. And generally what you do is you work on what the supervisor is working on. So if your mentor is working on whatever, then while you're in grad school, you work on that, right? And so you're helping your supervisor with their project, but the stuff you do is what you're doing. So you write a paper on what you're doing as a part of that project. I could have applied at a school that's kind of studying exactly what I wanted. I can't remember what happened. I don't know if I just dropped the ball on it and I just missed the deadline, or if there was something I saw, like when I pulled up the site again, there was some things that made me a bit iffy about the culture. But I don't remember. I just remember I pulled up the site, but I never applied. But there was one school that was studying stars to the closest extent relative to what I'm doing, but I didn't apply. So all the other schools I'm applying at, they some of them study stars and stuff, but it's not exactly what I'm doing. So that being said, a lot of my statements of purposes, I mentioned that I'm flexible on what I study, so I don't even know what I'm going to be studying technically when I get to grad school. I let them know that I'm interested in stars, and I showed them my star picture because it's a good picture, and I mean, my sun picture, they can see how good I am at that. But totally, I don't know what I'm going to be studying. I might be studying the stars when I get there, specializing in that, or I might be specializing in whatever. I just know it's going to be something in astronomy. I don't talk about this much, but before I went back to school, I worked in the banking world. I worked at a large international bank. I worked my way up to being a supervisor there, a senior supervisor. And but the longer I stayed there and the farther I got, the more I hated it. And I was there for 19 years, so I had a 19-year career. Some of y'all might notice that I look old. I know my face look young, but my hair usually gives me away. People usually think I'm in like my 20s or 30s if I shave my head. But at this point, I don't really care anymore. I shave it when I feel like it, right? But I was there 19 years. I could have stayed there, retired there. That's part of how I was able to go back to school because my retirement, I cashed it out. It hasn't been enough to cover everything. Hence, I'm back at school and I have some help from my family. So, but that retirement has been majority of how I was able to afford to go back to school full time. So that was 19 years of savings that I was able to use. Um, but being there, I know what it's like to work at a job that you just hate and you just working there just to make an income. I mean, it started off like I just started working there just to get a job to get out of my mom's house. And I'm usually good at whatever I do. So I got a lot of promotions and so on and so forth. And next thing you know, I was there 19 years and it was just the way it happened. But I didn't necessarily intend to work there. But I mean, there's a whole different story why I hated it. But suffice it to say, I believe that anything I work on in astronomy, I will love better than working there. So to that extent, I don't necessarily care what I work on, right? Like I mentioned earlier, how I didn't want to get to apply for the job in gamma ray, but again, if I have a choice, I'll pick something that I want to work on. But you know, if I get an offer to a graduate school and only get an offer to one, and they say we're going to be working on this one, I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to graduate school, right? I don't really care. If you're going to give me a choice between working on whatever in astronomy and going back to that job, I'm going to work on whatever in astronomy. You could give me gamma ray bursts, you can give me whatever you want. So now another thing is a lot of times when you graduate with a master's degree or PhD in something in grad school, a lot of times you end up working on that same thing because that's your expertise. So it's very likely that whatever I work on in grad school will be what I focus on when I got out of it. It's not absolute because I've also spoken to several PhDs who completely changed what they were doing because they didn't like it. But I'm just saying that a lot of times people do. I guess I don't have a percentage, but so it's possible I'll work on whatever I do in grad school. But if I had the choice, whatever I work on in grad school, if I had the choice, when I got out, I will switch back to stars because I like stars. So that's why I say it's kind of complicated. So long story short, what I work on in grad school is going to largely depend on what my supervisor's working on. Or I mean, I guess it's possible they can give me permission to work on what I want, but most likely it'll be what they're working on. If I have my choice, it'll be stars. Started as convenience, but I actually like stars. They think they're fun. Uh, After grad school, if I have my choice, I'd probably go back to stars. But you know, ultimately, I might end up teaching at a community college anyway, so I might not even be doing research when I get out. But I'll be prepared to if I need to. Research is actually fun. I didn't like it at first, but the more I do it, it's actually pretty fun. And Lisa says, my physics professor, her son, he made me fall in love with science. Awesome. And she went back to school for some computer science at 27 years. Never too late. Yeah. I went back at 42. I'm 45 right now. I'm reminded now since I'm getting my transcripts and stuff and all that, it says it on there. But usually I don't even know how old I am, but I went back at 42. Technically, I went back before that because when I was still working as a supervisor, I was going to community college. That's when I got my associate degrees. So technically, I guess I went back at like 38 or something, or 39, something like that. So close to the same age, Lisa. So yeah. But like I said, I mean, maybe one day I'll talk about that job. So I said, I think it was just the people mostly. Like, I don't know what it is, but when I was coming up in the job, like if you had an employee that was not doing their job, you can like fire them. By the time I became a supervisor, it like took away all the authority of the supervisors to really discipline and fire people. You had to like get permission from HR to do everything. And you had a few. I just had a few just despicable people that were just rude, uncooperative, and they were just making going to hell. They wouldn't let me fire them. So I was just like, dude, I just got to go. I'm just not dealing with these people anymore. So I just left. I meant to stay there until I got to UT, but I literally left like what in January because I just can't deal with this anymore. And I just started I started being a tutor at a community college, and it was part time, and it wasn't a lot of money anyway. But like I said, I had my savings, so I was like, dude, I'm just not working anymore. If I could get anything, I'm just about to stop going there. So I just stopped, and I worked as a tutor at Palo Alto. Then I worked at a tutor at San Antonio College, and then by that time, August came around, and I've been in school full time. And of course, now I work as a learning assistant, which is very like along the trajectory to be a professor. And eventually I'll be what do you call it, a teaching assistant when I get to grad school, and then I'll be a professor. So that's the plan. But also, so thanks for your interest in that, Lisa. Glad to share. And on to the topic of today. So I know everybody's been looking at the final experiment, which I'll say again. At first, I was sort of uh, 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 frowning upon a bit. And Lisa says, "Sweet, I'd love to take classes from you if I was there." Awesome, yeah, yeah. So my all the students I help, and even when I make a study group, they all say that I really helped them. One guy I was really thankful. I proctored the final exam in the class, and right before the professor, he gave me this emphatic thanks and appreciation for going above and beyond in the class and everything I did. So I really appreciated that. So, but yeah, so I always do well. But yeah, so final experiment, and I'll say again. At first, I was sort of like, "Why they send flat earthers? I mean, they need to spend that money and send like a scientist." I was like, "Dude, similar to." Because I've actually seen a flat earther say, even if they were sent into outer space, the windows might be TVs and they could still be in the studio. It's like, but seeing how this thing played out, it was awesome. It has been awesome. Seeing the flat earthers, I mean, just melt down trying to explain what's going on. Seeing flat earthers changing their tune back and forth, which brings us to this image. This image. So Witsit said, the 24-hour sun in Antarctica objectively doesn't prove a spinning globe. Get over it. And Elon Musk, in his wisdom, put community notes on X. And somebody said, Austin himself has admitted on at least one recent occasion that a 24-hour sun in Antarctica will prove the Earth is not flat. And Witsit says, ha ha, community note. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And that's why I titled this one more of According to Witsit, he's alive. Let's hear what Witsit says about that. Let's look at that one more time. Let me make sure that y'all can hear this.
Someone that is representing something untrue will have to constantly shuck and jive and update and change their position. I want you to pay attention to how this conversation has progressed and just use a little bit of wisdom, pattern recognition, and discernment. You'll realize that when someone is telling the truth, they are going to stay consistent. They're going to remain consistent. Someone that is representing something untrue will have to constantly shuck and jive and update and change their position. I want you to pay attention to how this conversation has progressed and just use a little bit of wisdom, pattern recognition.
He's a second driver, which I mentioned in our debate. I told him that to his face. So nothing I'm saying here is not anything I would tell him directly because I had told him directly, right? And matter of fact, let's listen to a bit of that clip before we go on. Let me share this one here. own words, you're just shucking and jiving, right? You haven't presented anything. So it's typical of you, and because I'm not going to let you run from this point. These are your actual words, so people could compare from what you actually said.
Because you just start to see, you're going to be able to know where it's going to be in a few days, more and more so the closer it is to that moment, right? Like you're seeing it moving in its path, and so it's getting closer and closer to where it's going to be, which just kind of shows that their whole facade of how well they understand the sky is a lie.
Now the funny thing is, you seem to be so happy about quotes when it's somebody else's quotes. When you're talking about Einstein, right? When you're talking about whoever, but suddenly quotes are not a thing.
I fully stand behind that quote, Daryl.
Fully stands behind that, and that's why I brought up last week about how, or maybe that was earlier this week. I think I did an extra stream about how being wrong again and again and again. Like he's wrong now about the 24-hour sun. According to him, it's for his position of being a know-it-all is a lie. And more it's becoming amazing. The way that people fall for this. And I'm going to talk again about the map that I showed in that debate, because I'll never forget how in that debate, and you're right, that's the perfect word, Lisa, narcissist. Because did I share that one? I don't think I prepared that one for this, because it's not, I mean, it's related, but it's not like I prepared for another clip for something else. But suffice it to say, I heard this fighter, this guy named, what's his name? I don't remember what his name is. I can pull it up. I should have had another window up. Do I have another window up? Yeah, I do. Awesome. So this guy's name is Space Pope. And he was saying the same thing. He was talking about how he was so narcissistic when he was a flat earther that it was an interview of an ex-flat earther, that he thought just the ideas in his head were true. And we see that over and over. Like I will talk with flat earthers and I'll present them some evidence that disproves flat earth, and they just say, well, it could be this. And it's literally something they literally just made up, because the evidence that I showed they had no idea about. So they literally just make something up on the spot. Well, it could be this. And then their narcissism, like you said, and that's the same word he used as an ex-flat earther, talking about himself. He said, I was just so narcissistic that I thought the ideas that I had in my head were true, were factual. So it's amazing. So it goes straight back to when I did this math in the debate that I did with Witsit. Every time I add something else, this thing just like moves everything around. Maybe it's something I'm doing that I have to figure out. There must be some way to keep this thing stable. I just haven't figured it out yet. So let me move this. So that's what was so amazing to me about this. Like I purposely started with this uh, 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 derivation of how we get to G, and that's why I started with that, to show that no matter what they try to say about these equations, whenever they're using G, acceleration, even though they try to just call it A, well, I'm just going to call it A, that it's not gravity anymore. No, that always comes from the mass of the Earth. It always comes from that. That's why I started with that. So and for Witsit to just in the middle of that debate just say, well, proves my point actually, because you cancel mass there. The fact that he just declares himself right and they just believe it. And I was seeing the people repeat it over and over in the chat and in the comment section. Yeah, well, you canceled the causative agent. What the hell? Just showed that the mass is always up. Even though the equation, and that particular equation, let me show you one more time. This mass here cancels because everything falls at the same speed, the same pace. There's always the mass of the Earth here where we actually get the gravitational pull force. So there's no way of getting around gravitational attraction, Newton's laws, whenever you use these kinematic equations. And it just amazed me so much that he could just make up something and just say, well, it proves my point. The exact thing that disproves him and just declare it makes him right. And I love it. So hopefully, if you all can look at this and see, because, and that's what I'm trying to link it to. When we look at NASA, right? The idea is that they say NASA lies. Hey, what's going on, real kindness? Good to see you. They go ahead and they say NASA lies. No. They say the government lies. The government lied about that. So you can't trust the government about anything. So now you can't trust NASA, so you can't trust their pictures. Okay. Well, Witsit lies. Look at his image here. Let me play you a few clips to demonstrate this. So let me bring up the window capture again. And let's listen to a few of these.
In the so you could have 24-hour lights in the south, right, on the flat earth, but as to seeing the sun in the sky for 24 hours do 360 around you, that doesn't really match what we say, right? So
if the thing happened at the South Pole and the 24-hour sun was seen, would that convince you the Earth was a globe?
Yeah, it would be a major problem for flat Earth for sure. I've said that on record 100 times.
Okay, no, I was just wondering.
Problem for flat Earth for sure. I've said that on record 100 times.
Okay, no, I was just wondering. Do you think that is the position of the majority of flat earthers?
Well, the flat earther in that video goes by the name of Witsit Gets It. He took.
Right, so again, he's saying that it will. Say it one more time. I don't want to figure out a flat earthers. Let me not mix up his words.
At the South Pole and the 24-hour sun was seen, would that convince you the Earth was a globe?
Yeah, it would be a major problem for flat Earth for sure. I've said that on record 100 times.
Okay, no, I was just wondering.
It's a mixed bag, real kindness. Because yes, he did admit there's a 24-hour sun, but then he also said it doesn't disprove the globe, even though he said there it does. So it goes back and forth for him. I mean, he did do this, right? And I was telling Lisa I was going to give him props for this in this debate. He did this. So let me bring up this clip from the awesome stream that Will Duffy did. He's the GOAT, right? Where hold up, wrong one. Where he brought all of these people who were in Antarctica with him to address Steve and the what's the word? The derp. I guess to encompass all the obfuscations and just made up evidence, what's the word? Subjective evidence. This is the body language. There's so much derp from this guy, and Witsit came on.
Hey, Steve, can I talk to you for a sec? Can you hear me?
Who is it? Sorry.
It's Witsit.
Oh, hi, Witsit.
What's up?
Oh,
man?
yeah, Witsit. Witsit, pleased to meet you, my friend.
Yeah, back at you, man. So I heard you say that you were looking at my body language or something, and you thought that I was duressed. Can you kind of lay out to me what you think is going on here? You think that we were coerced or threatened or something?
Witsit, what I think is, you see, honestly.
So he did that, right? He did go on and address Steve, telling him that he was duressed and stuff like that. He did admit there's a 24-hour sun, but of course it would have been, it's kind of like an our debate, right? If I recall, and I have to go back and see the exact dimensions of things, but this is what I recall happening. I asked Witsit to do this integration right here, right? I asked him, I said, you claim that you're like so good at math and you could you could pass all the exams without having to do this test. How would you integrate this? I asked him that. He bitched towards Ryan, saying, "Oh my God, she's challenging me." Even though throughout the whole debate he challenged me. Name one thing that they made name one technology that we made from space, for instance. And I told him diapers, and he was mad because I could answer it. It seemed like. So we challenged each other throughout the debate. It's clear he couldn't do it and wanted to avoid it, right? So he went through all that song and dance saying that don't question me, don't do that, right? At the same time, oh crap. See, I went through it. I need to get more sleep. I didn't get enough sleep last night. I was going through a multi-phase point. I was trying to answer which point? Let me think. Who was it? Okay, I think I lost what I was trying to say too much. Ricardo's was saying about I don't know. I was going through it. Suffice it to say though, he on one thing he's honest, and another thing he's not. I think that's the core point I was getting to. But there was some little detail I was trying to point out that I lost. On some things he's truthful, some things he's honest, some things he not. And I remember what I was going to say. During the debate, he had asked me, he challenged me on several things. I challenged him on several things, right? When it came to this thing, he wouldn't do it. Right, he wouldn't do it. And this is the detail I was getting to. There was one part of the debate where, later in the debate, he said, "Oh, I'll bet you that I can do that math. I'll bet you that I can do that integration." But this was after I had already did it in the recording. So I'm saying that to say that, in one sense, yes, it's nice he admitted that there's a 24-hour sun. But on another sense, he couldn't really get away with it because they were recording there. Just like how he volunteered to do the integration after he already had a recording of me doing the integration. And people miss that. Like, bet me. Oh, I bet you I can do it. After he literally can click on the video, because when you're streaming on YouTube like now, when you're looking at the stream live, you can click back in the stream. It's not like you have to wait until tomorrow to look at it. Like right now while I'm streaming, you can click back and see what was going on in the stream, right? So if I was to bet him, yeah, I could take your bet, go ahead and do the integration, there's nothing to stop him from bringing up the debate in another window, clicking back to when I actually did the integration and copying my integration. So when I see him admitting to the 24-hour sun, to an extent, it seems like to me more of that. Like, yeah, of course you want to bet to me that you can do the integration now that you have a recording of me doing the integration, right? And then I got flat earthers in the chat, in the comments saying, "Oh, why did you take the bait? Why did you take the bet? What you mean, why didn't I take the bet?" Bet me that he can do something that he just saw me doing, has a recording of me doing it. Point of me asking him to do it before I did it was to see if he can really do it. There's no point in me betting him now when he has a recording of me doing it. And he can play on the side and I can't see him playing it. So that was my point. I guess it was a more intricate point, but I just say all that to say that I take his stuff he does admit to, I take it with a grain of salt. It's like how we can see here, he admitted to there being a 24-hour sun, but now he's rejecting the fact that it disproves the globe, even though I already played 2 clips just now where he said, yes, that's a major problem for flat Earth, right? Now it's not a problem, right? So, maybe he's in transition. Maybe he's in the middle. Maybe he's in the middle between finally letting it go. But either way it goes, no matter how you look at it, this right here is still in full effect. This is still in full effect. What he said here.
Realize that when someone is telling the truth, they are going to stay consistent. They're going to remain consistent. Someone that is representing something untrue will have to constantly shuck and jive and update and change their position. I want you to pay attention to how this conversation has progressed and just use a little bit of wisdom, pattern recognition, and discernment. Realize that when someone is telling the truth, they are going to stay consistent. They're going to remain consistent. Someone that is representing something untrue will have to constantly shuck and jive and update and change their position. I want you to pay attention to how this conversation has.
I don't have to call Witsit a liar. He calls himself a liar. Like you just said right there. He's changing. I played the clips with him saying Antarctic sun, and there's no need for me to get his words wrong.
Thing happened at the South Pole and the 24-hour sun was seen. Would that convince you the Earth was a globe?
Yeah, it would be a major problem for flat Earth for sure. I've said that on record 100 times.
Okay.
We have that. The 24-hour sun in Antarctica objectively doesn't prove a spinning globe. And now we have this.
Progress and just use a little bit of wisdom, pattern recognition, and discernment, you'll realize that when someone is telling the truth, they are going to stay consistent. They're going to remain consistent. Someone that is representing something untrue will have to constantly shuck and jive and update and change their position. I want you to pay attention to how this.
And remember that I played earlier, right? I played earlier in our debate, and he 100% agreed with that quote. He himself said, I 100% stand behind that quote. If you go to,
you just start to see, you're going to be able to know where it's going to be in a few days, more and more so the closer it is to that moment, right? Like you're seeing it moving in its path, and so it's getting closer and closer to where it's going to be, which just kind of shows that their whole facade of how well they understand the sky is a lie.
Right. So according to him,
funny thing is,
them being off a little bit on that prediction, and I did the calculations earlier this week, the fraction of a percent on the shadow width, they're a lie. According to him, he's a lie then, right? Which is why, if you're a flat earther and you believe Witsit when he told you that this still proves him, if you believe Witsit when he told you, that still proves, you prove my point because you cancel that, you've been lied to, you've been fooled. Right, and it's a bit harder with this because I know a lot of people don't know physics. Definitely, flat earthers don't know physics because if you knew physics, you wouldn't be a flat earther, right? The average person doesn't know physics. Flat earthers are like anti-physics, right? So I know this is harder, but what I want you to do is I want you to look at this, a simple thing: does the sun go around 24 hours or not? Which is said. It disproves the flat earth if it does. We found that it does, and now he's saying it doesn't disprove the flat earth. Look at that back and forth there and realize this is the same back and forth he did here. This is more complicated, so to a certain extent I can see the flat earth is falling for it. But according to what you all have said, right, government lies, so you can't trust NASA at all. Witsit lies. Witsit, according to him, when he changes his answer back and forth, he's a liar. Like you said, with the 1% thing. If they're off by a fraction of a percent, their understanding of the size of facade is a lie. He's off by 100% on the 24-hour sun, right? 100%. Which means that he's a lie. His facade is a lie. So you can't believe him when he talks about the earth, obviously, but you got the 24-hour sun wrong. You can't believe him when he talks about math, obviously. If you could disregard every single photo from space because NASA lies, then you have to disregard everything Witsit said because Witsit lies, according to him. So so it's interesting that the founded experiment is allowing, and another thing I'll say, by the way, I got a lot of flack from people about me playing him his clips back, but now we see why I did it. Because he will change his answer. When I was able to capture him saying that thing, that it's a facade, it's a lie, we were off by a fraction of a percent, right? So when I say he's a lie, quoting his own words, he said he stands by that quote 100%. He can't come back and say, what did he say? A lot of the quotes not misquoting me, but what is it? Take me out of context. His amazing people fall for this. But it's pretty much all I had. And I wanted to just point this out, both for the amusement of, I guess, the fellow Globers, since they called us Globers, and also for any of you flat earthers who are sincere, you can look at this and realize the fact that Witsit even has one subscriber now, letting us know that you all don't mind lies. You all pretend that you're about truth and evidence, but all you flat earthers that still support Witsit, when you reject anything NASA says because of the government lies, any of you that still support him, and of course now ironically, the moment he told the truth, now he's getting rejected. Ironically, he came back from Antarctica saying there is a 24-hour sun, and now they're calling him a shill. So it's ironic that with the flat earthers, when you tell the truth, they call you a shill. Just like how this clip here, I guess can't say necessarily a clip, but it might be a bit hard to see. But while I was getting this from my debate with Witsit, I was reminded of this. It might be hard to see here, but this guy says, Daryl, your bottom right pick showed in the oval shadow. So I played a clip where Witsit was saying that it's impossible to get a circular shadow from two spheres. And I showed a circular shadow with two spheres, and I also showed a slanted shadow to show, yes, it can be slanted too. The flat earther just totally ignored the circular shadow and said, look, there's a slanted shadow. That wasn't the point was he said it's impossible to have a circular shadow. The fact that you can have a slanted shadow is irrelevant to the fact that I showed a circular shadow. But this is the level of thinking that these people have, where they would just ignore the point that you're making. They will ignore the evidence as it pertains to the point that you're making and just grasp on any little sliver they can possibly in any way try to convince themselves makes them right. Which is why, even though I showed that Witsit was wrong in this math, Witsit gave them a bone. Witsit threw them a bone and said, oh, it still supports me. They immediately latched on to it and said, yes, it still supports him. See, he canceled the causative agent. These people will just latch on to anything. So you should think about that. You should think about that. Let me catch up on any quotes here, chats here. Lisa says, and Lisa says, oh, he's not working too hard. Me interested. And Lisa says he's a 99% liar. He tells the truth only on rare situations. I mean, that fits some observations, right? And according to him, he's a liar. According to him. I've played the clip a few times already. Lisa gets triggered when pressured to show math or show his understanding of math. His speech speeds up by a factor of 5. Because I have to notice that I hate the fact that it's so easy to miss things when you're in the middle of a debate. And maybe it's just me because for the debate, I was chomping at the bits to get at Witsit. And people was in the chat saying, it's personal. He was like, anyway, because I remember him saying what he said. But whatever he said, I was like, dude, I can't wait to get my hands on you. I don't know if it was something, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was that triggered it. But he said something either about me or about evidence. It was something he said. I was like, dude, I can't wait to get my hands on you. And there's some things that I missed, like when he pulled up that page about geocentrism. I was so focused on pressing him on the prediction that I didn't even notice that his own reference referred to the sun as being 93 million miles away. And I think even in that debate, played the clip of him saying the stars are local. Definitely in my part one of this. If you catch my part one of according to Witsit, he lies, I definitely played a clip where he's saying the stars are local, the sun is a local light source. And then I show the clip of that his presentation, his evidence, where it says the sun is 93 million miles away. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And Real Kindness says, and the only time he doesn't lie is automatically a lie. Is a thing of beauty because he literally taught those people to behave like that and practically single-handedly, mind you, same for German. That's right. So this goes back to, we were talking about earlier how now they're calling him a skill. It's like how we were saying I was saying we were saying, but me and Lisa were talking about it earlier in Steve's screen, where Steve was saying Witsit is under duress and he's being made to lie. If you listen closely, he said they were brought out. He changed his tune when Jaren and Witsit was actually on the stream. But if you watch that Steve interview on the Final Experiment, he said they were brought out. They were got to. Well, I guess he said they were got to. Maybe he didn't say brought out. Maybe he said got to. So I got that. That's what that would. Something like that. Either way it goes, Witsit was there to counter it. Jaren was there to counter it, and I appreciate that. But the only reason why we had to go there to counter it is, like you said, Real Kindly, because they taught the guy to distrust any evidence that disproves flat Earth. Any evidence that disproves flat Earth, according to them, it has to be a lie. So they automatically discount it, and they jump on anything they can possibly jump on, just like how they jumped on this cancel, the cancel thing right there. Anything they can possibly latch on to is what I've observed. Anything, no matter how flimsy, no matter how wrong, no matter how pulled out of the ass it is, you just latch onto it and say, I can grab onto this, I'm still right. The earth is still flat. Right? I don't have to look at the evidence. Rakani says nobody can challenge this egocentric geocentrism bullshit. Oh, well, I challenged it. He won't admit to it. Just still never admit to it. That has been proven wrong. Oh yeah, but in that debate, in the whole thing, I can't remember one second when he actually addressed what I presented. I don't remember him disproving that gravity is a thing. I tried to go into that topic. I don't remember him addressing that. I don't remember him disproving that the pictures of the sun I had were accurate. I had a solar picture and my own picture. Notice, by the way, I played a clip of him saying that even if a human being was in space shining, we couldn't tell them from a star. But I showed sunspots. Humans don't have sunspots, because sunspots are made from electromagnetic field lines going in and out the body. We don't have a what do you call it? A what is it? Can't remember the exact phrase. You probably remember it real kindness. Where inside the Earth, all the magma stuff is being spent around, and that's what's causing a magnetic field. Crap! I wish I remember that word. It's so close. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Well, humans don't have that, right? And after my debate, and maybe it was because he was talking with the final experiment people. Like I said, I wasn't into the final experiment at first, so maybe that's how he got tipped on to sunspots. But I know in our debate I mentioned sunspots, and then after our debate, he was talking about the sunspots in the sun in Antarctica. So it's another change he made. So yeah, it was challenged. And as far as I could recall, I don't think he addressed any of the evidence that I presented. He just kept trying to tell me what my position was to get me to fall for his straw man, which I wouldn't do. Lisa says, I can't believe they ate my face, said the member of the Lepers Eating People's Faces party. That's a good point. But again, that's not again, but the thing about it is we was talking about this last week, Lisa. This is consistent with these types of cults, ideologies. When someone falls for the gender ideology stuff, right, and they believe just thinking you're a woman makes you a woman if you're a man, or they just believe thinking you're a man when you're a woman makes you a woman, right? And then they start getting these medical treatments and hormones and all this stuff, and then finally, some of them realize, oh my gosh, this is crazy. They get immediately ousted, right? They get trumped on, and basically they're getting called the shield. Same thing with the critical race theory, anti-racism stuff, right? Somebody's false to that stuff, and they go into this white fragility, and everything is racist, and black people have to work twice as hard, and because the system is all this stuff, and they finally something wakes them up and say, oh my gosh, this is all bullshit. They get trumped on too. They get beaten up and kicked out the group. So same thing with flat Earth, right? When you believe the ideology, you're part of the family. But the moment you start waking up, ironically, because they call themselves awakened and woke, the moment you start realizing the truth and you say it, all of a sudden you're a shield. So this is consistent with these false ideologies, to where, as long as you say exactly what I want you to say and think exactly what I want you to think and never fall out of line, right? As long as you just put the party line, or if you make something else up, make sure it aligns with the party line, then you're part of the family. We love you so much. The moment you say or do anything outside of that, then we're going to dump on you. So it's pretty consistent. Pretty consistent. And welcome, Mantis. Good to see you. Hold up, where was I at? They eat my face, and Lisa says that when it's honest, they can't be a flat earther. Well, that is true, right? Chip Hart says, let's be real, you've not going to debate general relativity with a canine. It's like you shouldn't debate an illiterate person on literate things, let alone reasoning with the fraud. Hey, I understand your point, Chip Hart. The reason why I do it mostly is because it helps me study better. Like, for instance, I have a debate plan with Flatzoid on thermodynamics. Not because I believe he's going to be honest, not because I believe he's going to change his mind, but because it's helping me study. Because I'm taking a class. I took a survey class where I did thermodynamics. I guess it was a year ago now, so I have to refresh myself. And I'm taking a full blown thermodynamics class in the spring. Right. So, I like public speaking. I think it's fun. I usually talk about something that I'm doing. Like the reason why my presentation for Witsit was the sun and all that stuff, but that's the research I'm doing, right? So I find it fun and always align what I do with what I'm doing. I guess the exception to that recently would be when I did the moon debate, but I didn't intend to do a moon debate. I intended to do a flat Earth debate, but apparently there was a mix up where the modern day debate thought Marcus was a flat earther, but he wasn't. Then it switched to moon debate like 5 minutes before. And I mean, I was like, cool, let's go ahead and do it because I was already there and, it was fine. Right. But generally, if I do a debate, I try to do it on something that I'm doing. Right. As a matter of fact, my presentation, I have the presentation that I prepared for that debate that I've updated now for whenever I can do another flat earth debate. That's going to be some of the math and stuff that I'm putting in something else I'm writing. So everything I do, I align it if I can with what I'm doing. But plus, I like public speaking. I think it's fun. But I certainly do see your point, Siddharth. Debating with these guys, if you believe they're going to change their mind, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. Is my experience. And Lisa says, any evidence that proves their ideas must be rejected, especially the one who points it out. Yeah, got to project the cult. That's true. They ain't going away, but hopefully there will be very few and any new recruits into the cult of madness. I think so. Awesome. That's good. Thank glad all is well with your Mantis. And Lisa says, but we can't stop pushing back. I remember somebody was asking, I believe they was asking MC Toon that. Should we stop talking about it now? And that's one of the things, one of the possibilities he mentioned. What if we just stop talking about it and it resurges? So, I go back and forth between let me try to jump in and help these people and debunk this thing too. Let me just have fun when I want because like he was a good example. I mean, what is it going to take to change that guy's mind? I mean, I don't know. So what's it said so many times, coffee cup caustic, bro, for sunlight in Antarctica. We can't say that anymore because you saw the sun himself. Right, and that's a good point, Lisa. Lisa, that's another thing he was wrong about. So again, he's wrong. Not a fraction of a percent wrong when you say there were lies. 100% wrong. So the very fact that flat earthers still follow him, given that they believe that we need to not listen to NASA because government lies, it's amazing. Manta says as soon as flat earthers get kicked out of the club, they are turned on. They are turned on like a Stalinist purge. Hey, when I was watching that Steve's interview, Witsit was saying, man, we were amazed. Both him and Jaron were simply amazed at what was going on. He was saying that's why we didn't even try to counteract it. It was the Globers who were trying to defend them being shields or whatever, because they were just so amazed and shocked that the insanity was going on. And I remember Witsit actually used the word insanity. It's insane for y'all to be saying this is a green screen and stuff like that. It's amazing. Agree, it's always a catch-22 aspect, Real Kindness says. On one hand, the best thing we can do is ignore them. And on the other, there ought to be 10 times the debunks for every one of their BS vids on the principle alone. To see that. And Mantis is asking about Steve. Now, yeah, I saw that whole thing. That thing was so good. Mantis. That thing was so good. I mean, and I just pulled it up. I've been keeping up with the TFE stuff recently because it's been so good. I mean, oh my gosh. And then how, first of all, just the derp of Steve, right? It's the body language. Apparently he could just subjectively read your body language and somehow that proves the shape of the earth. And the way he was trying to focus on that one little word of Jaren, because apparently, I didn't, let me see if I can pull it up real fast. I don't want to spend too much time looking for it. but it shouldn't be too hard to find out a particular part, or maybe it would. I mean, let me not try to do search. But if you pull up the Steve debate, what happens is, he's saying that Jaron has said the sun set really quickly, because he couldn't really bear with the dishonesty. He had to try to give us a hint, and then I guess he didn't expect for them to bring Jaron on. And it turns out Jaron was going into the next sentence and was saying, since they don't think we're really at the whatever. But it was just amazing the stuff that this guy was focusing on, these little details. It's amazing how detailed they can be, right? When they believe something proves them, right? But we see what happens when uh, when something disproves them, how undetailed they can be, right? I'll bring this up again, prove my point, right? You see how when there's a video that may have one little second where Jaron says sets, they will find those little minute seconds of things, but yet Witsit just says, "Oh, that proves me," and that's enough. They don't actually go into the math. They don't actually go into the details of the physics and figure out what's going on, right? They don't actually do that. They just accept whatever is said. So it's amazing the double standards of details. One thing they're very detailed, and they'll find that one little fraction of a second that they think fits them, but on another, it's they don't want anything to do with it, right? And Steve, and Lisa, he seemed like he was just delusional. He seemed like he really believed what he was saying. All of them are paranoid, Mantis. They talk to be paranoid. Everybody's lying to them. I understand that the government does lie. I understand conspiracy things do happen. Me, myself, back when 9/11 happened, I looked into it, and it seems to me it's an inside job, especially when you look into the thermite that was found there, all the thermite evidence that was there, the high grade of the thermite evidence, the way the building fell, the way the one tower fell, even though it didn't get hit by a plane, but it fell just like a thermite demolition. But that doesn't mean that every single thing that comes out of every single thing in government is a lie, right? And if you believe that, you can verify it yourself. I took my own pictures of the sun, right, and I was able to see that the satellite photos are accurate, for instance. So even if they don't believe the government, things about the Earth, you can actually do it yourself anyway. But they're taught to be absolutely paranoid. So yeah, he's certain the truth is not what he says. Lisa says paranoid. Yeah. So despite the fact that he's losing his mind debating the Moonlight and Vincent, listeners, yeah, those ones. I don't know what's going to change his mind. I believe Steve didn't want to hear the question. You notice he dropped out. According to him, that's opportune time. He dropped out right when Witsit was asking him, did he believe in the 24-hour sun or not? Yeah, that was awesome of Will to get everybody on. No amount of evidence is enough, Lisa says. Yeah, man. They focus on anything. Lisa's pointing out how you focus on that one little word. These people, man. But suffice it to say that we have enough evidence now that at least Witsit, and again, I respect the fact that he's admitting it is a 24-hour sun. I respect the fact that he went on to that show to counteract the claims of Steve that he was, under duress. But let's not forget that he's also still saying that the Earth is flat, regardless of the 24-hour sun. Even though I've already played clips of him saying emphatically that it would be a big issue. So maybe he's in transition. Maybe soon. I know as soon as Duran got back, he said Duran was like, I can't 100% say that is a globe, but I won't be surprised if that's the outcome. Maybe Witsit is on his way there in the same sense. But regardless of what, we know, according to his own words, we can't trust anything Witsit says, and obviously we can't trust him anything he says about science or math or anything like that, because obviously he doesn't know what he's talking about. Obviously his facade of believing he should be any kind of. I remember on the Steve debate, as a matter of fact, he was talking about how he debated astrophysicists and stuff about the Earth moving, and he just obviously he's wrong, according to him. According to him, obviously he's some kind of wrong, and we can't trust anything he says. Maybe those people were thought, this guy is an idiot, let me just get it over with. If he even did talk to somebody, we can't even trust that he talked with them, because according to him, he's shucking and jiving, changing back and forth. So interesting thing is, he's sort of similar to how everybody was pointing out, how Duran and Witsit, they taught their own followers to call them shills now that they're pointing out that there's a 24-hour sun, right? Witsit taught us to recognize that he's a liar and he couldn't be trusted because he's a shucker and driver, right? So either he's going to say he's wrong about that and that was a lie, or he's lying about all the stuff he thinks he knows. So either way it goes, he's a liar. Either him saying you're a shucker and driver, if you change, that's a lie. If he comes back and says, well, you know what, sometimes you're wrong and you can improve. Well, that's not what you said about NASA. You said that it proves that they're a facade and they're a lie. Okay, so it's which kind of liar he's going to be. And whichever kind of liar he is, since flat earthers believes if you're a liar, you have to just disregard everything. We have to discard everything he says, right? It's awesome. That's all I have for this one. The last few comments. So evidence 24-hour sun. None of us are immune to conspiracy theories. It takes work to find the truth. Yeah. So, I mean, I think when most people say conspiracy theory, they just mean something that's like unreasonable. Like it's become sort of a derogatory term. I think I've even heard somebody say that the term was made by like agents to try to discredit people who are finding actual conspiracies. But I mean, conspiracies do happen. The Gulf of Tonkin thing comes to mind. If I remember right, that was one where they said they were shot on, but they wasn't. But then they used that as a justification to attack. So I mean, conspiracies do happen. Even in the many worlds, on mechanics, there's no universe where any of that vape gate crap makes the lightest difference. And Lisa says, FYI, I emailed you a link of a psychologist paper on conspiracy theorists and flat earthers. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's probably my main interest in the flat earthers is the psychology of it. And Real Cognitive says, I suppose baby steps are better than nothing, but Duran needs to lose that douchey NASA sucks side. Hey, we're making progress. Awesome, guys. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate seeing y'all. I'll be back again in like a few minutes. I know there's a moon debate going on, so those who will stick around or be back, I appreciate it. But I'll be back and talk a little bit about the sun. That one will be short. I'll just show my images, Pete McKeegan's images, and the Soho images, and talk about the sun a little bit. Also, Real Kindness, I'll be there in a bit. I'll be in a bit. Lisa, thank y'all for showing up. Thank y'all for liking. Y'all have a good one.